Welcome back to Startup Dugout by Dell Technologies, a podcast series where we talk to entrepreneurs from India's biggest tech startups to go back to that time when. That time when you needed allies. That time when you needed sound advice and good mentors. That time when you were looking for the right tech partners who can accelerate growth. I'm your host, Sairee Chahal, a founder, an entrepreneur, an angel investor, and evangelist for women's internet. I currently run Shiro's and Mahila Money internet ecosystems for women to succeed. In this podcast series, we discover how industry leaders respond to challenges in their entrepreneurial journeys. We also learn how initiatives like Dell for Startups empower companies through innovative technology, strategic guidance, proven practical capabilities, and expert consulting assistance. I'm joined by Aaditya Sharda, the co-founder of Infra.Market, that provides construction solutions through the smart use of technology that he created with Souvik Sengupta. Starting with B2B product solutions in categories like steel, concrete, and aggregates, they are now building a unique construction solutions company with retail solutions and private label brands in both B2B and B2C segments. With over 6,000 SKUs, 5,000 retail stores, over 1,500 B2B2C franchisee stores, and a domestic and international presence, InfraMarket is valued at $2.5 billion, having hit the coveted unicorn status in 2021. I talked to Aaditya about going through multiple rounds of funding in rapid succession, the reality of becoming a unicorn, using tech in an industry that is not familiar with it, and what it was like getting into retail. Let's go back to early 2016. Aditya, welcome to the show, and thank you for talking to me.
Thank you, Sairee.
All right, so let's start pretty much at the genesis of the idea. You and Souvik know each other from college days, and normal people don't build infra and construction companies. In fact, most of us want to. So clearly,
It's pretty unsexy world, right?
Exactly. It's clearly not on the list, and of course you guys have managed to do that. And talk us through a little bit about how you guys got together, what created this interest in the space, and of course, how did this all transpire?
Right. So Souvik and I have been knowing each other since 2000s, right? We were in the same college, having same friends, and living in the same locality. By that, as in Souvik was always a academician, right? He was the first bencher, I was the last bencher, right? I have never done that interesting stuff on the academic side. And then, of course, we used to meet socially. That was a time when we were growing up in colleges. But since 2010, as in once our academics were over, Souvik has completed his chartered accountancy, CACS. He took a job in one of the top infra companies. He was serving there, looking at the problem from the other side of the table, right? I come from a family background, as in my uncles and all have been into building materials sector for a long time, right? So back then when you were young, right, I come from a Marwadi family, so businesses is a very natural progression. So I had joined my uncle's business on the steel side, right, where they were one of the largest distributors of Tata Steel, right, and I was looking more into sales, pure sales and operations, and that is when I got exposed to this world. When I started serving clients, right, as in I'm a avid you can say a salesman, a talker, an operations guy, right? So when I used to interact with customers, we realized that steel was very organized in nature, right? The supply chain, you have large companies like Tata Steel, JSW, Jindal Steel, right? The market is controlled by few people, large companies, and organized, right? And in any construction sector, right, steel will never be used in isolation. It would be requiring, the site would require concrete, aggregate, sands, blocks, lot of stuff. So invariably, right, I'm talking this almost 10 years back, 10 to 12 years back, the sites would have got delayed because of the other products not reaching on time, right? And for the relation that I had shared with my customer, like few of them prompted me, hey Aditya, why don't you even try to look out these products for us. And that is when I started exploring concrete, aggregates and sand, right? Only to realize that these were extremely fragmented market from the supply angle, right? And because they were fragmented, the margins were huge. And that's how I got engaged into supplying these materials. So I was on the other side of the table, supplying and finding a consumer, while Shovik was on the other side looking at the problem from a consumer angle, because he and his company used to invariably struggle for getting the right products at a standardized quality on a time, dependable. They wanted dependable vendors, right? And I started supplying. So since 2010 until 2014, this was more like a lifestyle business for me, where very, very localized Mumbai centric business. But even then, I used to have top of infra companies, companies like Phoenix Market City Mall, whom I served, Kanakya Builders, which are very large in Mumbai, and many a clients. So when I started doing this, I realized that the opportunity is much larger than just a lifestyle business. Like while there are great margins, but at scale, nobody is looking at the fragmented play of these product materials, right? There is a supply sitting, right, and a demand already available, right? But no one to bridge the gap at scale, no one to bridge the gap at a standardization of quality, right? And that is when Shovik and I started discussing it, right? That, hey, can we just do it at scale? Can we bring some kind of a layer of quality in between? Can we get some technology solutions? Can we aggregate demand and have the capacities better utilized? And that's how the idea poured in, right? And obviously, knowing the industry, we always had the benefit because we knew the industry firsthand, and we were completely grounds up, right, in building out businesses. So knowing that, we started this business in 2016, right? We were 3 years bootstrapped, but even when we were bootstrapped, we were profitable every year, right? So that was the availability of opportunity, right? Of course, we couldn't scale, as in this industry is a capital intensive industry, right? And so at that time we had limitation of scaling, but yet we grew 100% year on year and kept the venture profitable, and just took a vanilla simple idea of excess demand sitting on one side, right, where your suppliers, vendors are not able to reach out to the consumer at scale, right, and building out the bridge between the demand and the supply.
Wonderful. I think, of course, great opportunities are made up of organizing highly segmented markets. And clearly, India is seeing a lot of that play out, and we will continue to see that play out for a bit. Uh, this brings me to my next question, which is, how do you organize? And clearly, you guys have put a fair amount of investment in technology, but also R&D, and that's something I've read about, and I've heard references of innovating by investing in technology, creating enterprise level solutions. Walk us through this journey, because I mean, this is an opportunity that has existed for a long time, and what is it that you did that made it a rapidly scalable business from there?
So I think what we did is we built out a lot of technology on the supply chain, right? Initially, as I told you, imagine a concrete business, right, or an aggregate sand bricks blocks business. You can't think of a company, right? Like if I tell you to think about steel, you may think about a company. If I talk to you about cement, an Ultratech or an ACC or an Ambuja will cross your mind. If I talk about a tiles company, something will pop in your mind. Some company will pop in your mind. But do you know that in construction industry, there are so many other products, right, which are used in a massive quantity, and the consumer doesn't know, because the person who's manufacturing it, right, these are fragmented small scale industries, right, who have been never thought about getting technology play. What we did is we aggregated demand for these guys, built out a technology on the entire supply chain, right, where we could predict the capacity, the excess capacity, right, where we could predict the capacity utilization, where we could allocate demand at the right time. So this was the enterprise solution that we built on more on the supply chain side, right, which enabled us not to come up with manufacturing units, right. A lot of the businesses that we did, right, then were completely asset free, right, because we're completely light on assets, right. We had to not put up manufacturing units because there were dozens of manufacturing units available who are underutilized. So once you build out the technology on this side, right, it becomes very easy, right? Then you have to only aggregate sales, get the demand generated, and focus on supply.
Great. And one of the things that I've heard is that construction companies traditionally invest less than 1% of their revenue in new technologies. And you clearly breached that benchmark and inverted it on its head. Uh, what do you think has been the case when we think about the resistance to technology? We know it's a fragmented segment. The players are either very small uh, or or perhaps in a trading mindset rather than a building mindset. How do you manage to increase adoption of technology in a segment that's so fragmented?
See, honestly, I think the adoption has been a challenge, right? I can give you an example of e-commerce. See, the e-commerce boom that happened from 2010 until now is because you had the entire ecosystem adopting the technology, right? You had an Amazon, you had a Flipkart, you had a Swiggy, you had a Zomato, you had Shopcluse, you had a dozen of companies, and you had a consumer who was ready to buy online. Of course, the experience then was not that great, but the entire ecosystem was working towards improvising the fulfillment, right? To improvise the experience, and the consumer was also adaptive to it. And that's the reason from I remember the first order at Amazon that I had done that came in 25 days, right, in 2010, 12, right? But now it's 24 hours because you had the ecosystem working towards it. Unlike in construction industry or the building material industry, the industry still is largely offline, right? Because there are multiple players, large, mid-size. So being said that, I always see adoption as a challenge because the companies which are looking at penetration by technology are fewer than the companies who are looking by the traditional way, the feet on street way of sales, right? So while it is challenging today, but we saw massive change during the COVID times. See, during the COVID times, after the first wave, construction was one sector which was declared as which could start its operations. Right? It was declared. It was in the part of those few sectors which resumed operations very quickly. Right? Now we were in this situation where the sites were supposed to start. Right? But the offices or the purchase guy was sitting out of home. The offices did not start. And that was a time when they were pushed to buy the products or to use technology and get the procurement done, right? And that's how the site would work. So I think that was the silver lining for us, right? Where a lot of clients whom we have been chasing for a very long time were adaptive, were slightly, I would say, even not that progressive to accept it. But during the COVID times, we were there, right? So on one side, we had supply chain fixed, and on the other side, we had the technology arm, right? The technology being built, which we could fulfill even sitting at home. So that is when we got the massive up curve, right, on the demand side, and that is how even the entire ecosystem started realizing that, hey, even these products can be bought using the app or placing an order over the web, right? And there are tools available which ensures the quality in process, which ensures the supply chain process, which also ensures the scale at which it can supply in process. I think that was something we were blessed, I think, by nature in some way, and the adoption is accelerated. But I still feel that largely we are yet away from the massive adoption, but sooner or later, it's a matter of time, right? But soon, I think there is so much a technology can do to the entire brick and mortar industry, right? That the industry will start shifting to it. It's a matter of time, and I still see a lot of brick and mortar companies, the large players, coming up with lot of technology tools, coming up with lot of supply chain solutions, and using technology to benefit them.
Wonderful. This is truly brick and mortar. I know we've been using the term very long, but I think this is the first time this is truly in context. And yeah, I guess we all witnessed a little bit of adoption, the silver lining of COVID, digitization of India and digitization of fragmented businesses, fragmented industries. And we've covered some of those on this podcast series. Which brings me to my next question, Aditya. Your partnership at Dell. Clearly, a company built on technology needs very robust partners, a lot of reliability. Talk us through how you've been supported by partners like Dell in building this platform, in building this ecosystem, and of course, paving the way for the entire industry to walk through?
I think Dell has been a solo partner when it comes to the computing solutions that we use, right? The hardwares that we use. It's largely by Dell since inception days. I think because of the sheer quality that it has been giving, and more importantly, the crispness of the service. I clearly remember, even during the COVID times, at 1 year, we were hiring every month, right? We used to hire like somewhere around 40 to 50 people per month. Even that time, to give you a support on the service, to ensure that the laptops and the other hardware solutions are there in place, that we could grow. I think Dell has been extremely instrumental in our journey over that side, and that makes Dell for us a completely preferred partner. So as I said, as in the entire hardware solutions, the computing technology, a lot of it we have a very close tied up with Dell, and I must appreciate and congratulate, and in fact also thank them for the relentless service that they have been offering us right since like 3 years now.
Change makers, most often than not, face resistance. Take the construction industry that InfraMarket works in. Its stakeholders probably never thought of applying tech tools to their processes. But InfraMarket has proved their ease and efficiency tremendously by smartly using technology. InfraMarket also had Dell to support them with advanced technologies like end user computing. Now, apart from offering trustworthy digital solutions, Dell for Startups helps startups reach their goals and defines new routes for their success. They help startups in India to accelerate their digital journey and solve some of the biggest challenges in the country, keeping Dell's core purpose in the forefront, creating technologies that drive human progress. We now head back to Startup Dugout by Dell Technologies to find out more about how Aaditya Sharda of InfraMarket navigated through the ups and downs of funding, dealing with the pressure of challenging targets, and the importance of getting your hands dirty as an entrepreneur. I do want to jump into the question that every founder probably wants to ask you. First, you went ahead and bootstrapped the company, stayed profitable for 3 years. And then, of course, you did raise funding, and how. So before we get to the golden years of funding, I want to talk about the challenges of raising funds in an industry which is yet not on, it's not on VC websites, it's not a segment yet, and nobody's really looking for it, analysts are not writing reports for it. How did you go out and raise your first set of funding?
I think it was extremely challenging. So 3 years of bootstrap was not a choice that we had made, right? It was more forced by the industry. We had done a multiple pitch decks to many VCs and Ps, many, and we were from Mumbai, right? We were not sitting right there in Bangalore, where you have a lot of ecosystem and you have folks where you can actually just do the networking and get at the right doors. So I think. Mumbai is never known for the VC world, right? While it's the finance world of India, it's the finance capital of India. The early stage investors are never out of Mumbai. So one was the ecosystem challenge. Two, as I told you, it's a very unsexy world, right? As I go back 2016, 17, 18, that was a time of the consumer goods, right? You had the Flipkart, the Walmart getting into Flipkart. You had Swiggy, you had Ola, you had Oyo. So these were the businesses, right? A complete consumer-centric businesses, having brands, having consumers which are buying things online, where technology is driving revenue, right? For an Ola or for a Zomato or for a Swiggy, right? The technology is very evident to the consumer because the technology is driving revenues. You take up an app and you place an order. You take up an app and book a ride, right? And in that, we were asking for, funding for selling cement, right? Or selling concrete, right? I'm not even sure that that was a problem for the world, right? That was a problem that was being looked by a lot of financial institutions that, hey, are you really solving a problem? I think we see the buildings are anyways coming up, even if nobody supplies, and that's not a problem, right? So, yeah, it was 3 years of knocking doors, but thankfully, I think the good part is that between Souvik and me, we always had portfolios divided, right? So one founder always focused on raising funds or making investor relations. That was Souvik. He still continues to do that. And my job was to do the business, right? So business did not suffer. It wasn't that funds not coming in was a challenge. The challenge was we had so much business and the funds were not coming. So there was one time where, as in, we started by raising capital by putting our houses on mortgage it out to the bankers. That was the first phase. Then we raised some capital from friends and family. And it also went where we had to ask our parents, right, that, hey, can we just, also mortgage your houses? We did that. And last but not the least, I had to even ask my in-laws to give me their flat where they used to stay and put it on mortgage, right? Because the idea is that it's a capital intensive business. 2-3 years profitable, bootstrap, opportunities available. Third, your clients are asking, right? Your clients are asking for more material. They are loving the idea, right? So when there's an opportunity and you have developed the way to scale it up, right? You have developed the supply chain to fulfill it. How do you give that up, right? It was very difficult as an entrepreneur to leave those opportunities. So we went all out and raised capital in any form which was available and kept doing the business. Thankfully, what happened to us is back in 2019, WeWork happened. WeWork from approximately $49 billion valuation, SoftBank had cut its valuation around $15 billion, right? Because of the pure profitability angle, right? So that is a time when Shift started focusing on profitable startups, which were very less then, while it is also very few are profitable now. But back then in 2019, bootstrapped startups, profitable was a very rare occasion. So we had seen the world where investors we used to tell us that, hey, why do you need capital? You're profitable. Why don't you just grow it yourself and have the entire equity to you? And someone used to tell us that you should go to the banks, right? So I guess that was a polite way of them saying a no to us. From that world, we have come. We started getting a lot of inbound calls, and in 2019, the first fundraise happened. We were extremely delighted and lucky to get Axel on board. So that was my first fundraise, and since then a lot of it has been an inbound where we used to get interest from a lot of institutions, right? Because they were seeing us growing, they were seeing the scale, they liked the industry, but they've been long looking at the industry, but they were looking at someone who could put it off. So there was growth, there was profitable, and since then the fundraise kept happening. When I go back and look at my pitch decks of Series A, B, C, D, my business idea on Series A was very different to that of Series B. So we also kept consciously evolving, right? And then our idea was that, hey, we'll make a concrete and aggregate sands company only in Mumbai and Karnataka, right? Maharashtra and Karnataka. From then today, we have evolved to that from a pure RCC focused products, right? We have gone into finishing. We have got into finishing categories like tiles, bath fitting, sanitary, modular kitchen, modular furniture, lights, fans, right? Hardware. So this was not my idea back in 2019. So I think as a founder, you have to keep learning, right? You have to keep evolving in the journey. You have to understand what the consumer wants. You have to tweak your business models. You have to adapt to what is coming new. And also you have to build out moat from the competition, right? If you keep doing the same thing, right? Ideas are novelties, right? It's ideas. I never give a lot of weightage to ideas. It's execution, right? At the end of it, what I'm doing is not unique. It's not unique. Everybody would knows what I'm doing, right? But who can execute well? So you also have to be ahead in the curve to keep executing the ideas which are now, and also start working on something that you want to show the world, say 3 quarters later, 6 quarters later.
You walked us through your early funding challenges, and of course, there came a time when the legendary Tiger Global round happened with $100 million in the bank, and of course turned the company into a unicorn. I'd love to hear more about the whole right to that point.
After the Axel round, we had Nexus and Tiger leading us Series A. Then we also had a term sheet in the month of March 20, which got pulled out. And as it got pulled out, right, we continue to do business, right? And as I told you, in COVID, our business actually increased quickly. In September 2020, we had the Series B coming in, which was fairly around $180 million post money, right? But the numbers were exploding. That is when we were out to raise funds for a Series C. And we were honestly not expecting $1 billion valuation, honestly, right? I think we were negotiating term sheets around 600, 700 million, right, or so, and a lot of negotiations were happening. But in 2021 was when Tiger realized that, or when Scott was looking at the numbers, I think they were tipped off that we are looking to raise capital and about our numbers, and that is when we got a call on them. I think the call before the call, I think they had pretty much made up their mind about what they want to do. It was more a surprise for us. It was 8 7 8 minute call, and Scott did ask us that, hey, what's the valuation we're looking at? And with a very big heart, and literally shivering and nervous, we asked for a 750 800 kind of some number Shouvik asked. He said, hey, forget that, you tell me, like, so he actually said that. He actually said that, I'm not going to give you 750 800 million. I'll give you $1 billion valuation. Tell me how quick can you grow into it? And we realized, so we did a quick math. It's, I think, $100 million coming in. How quick can it grow? We can do it in 4 months because we had the business, right? We had the business model in place. So we quickly grabbed onto it. Barely, I think we would have celebrated for a few hours, right? Not even days. And we got back on the work because we had something to prove to it was a softer commitment, right? We owed it to Tiger. He actually gave us a very graceful valuation, or rather I would say overvaluation at that point of time, and we had to prove it for him because somebody gave that, somebody stood behind you and gave you that fame, the unicorn fame, and showed trust on you, right? It becomes a moral responsibility to build into it. Very quickly we built into the revenues, quickly we built into the numbers, and proved ourselves and to everyone that, hey, that this business is something really large. A B2B, while it could be a not so sexy business or not so flamboyant and nice business, a lot of ground up work dealing with dealers, transporters, logistics, miners, and extremely operations heavy. But yes, a solid revenue model, a solid growth model, a solid profitable model can be believed. I think that was about the legendary Tiger round that happened in early 2021s, right? And since then, there's been no looking back.
Wonderful. I think super exciting to just hear the whole story play out. This brings me to my next question, Aditya. I think it seems from the outside that this is all laid out and taped up. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know is the amount of grunt work that both your founders, Souvik and you, have put in, literally being on the field, probably slumming it out a little bit and in places, and of course getting your hands dirty. And this conversation will be incomplete if we didn't get to know about some of the the grunge work that went into building it from there. So and I know that you're familiar with the sector, and so is Souvik. So tell us about the hardships of being on ground.
Right from meeting dealers to meeting vendors to meeting supply chain, logistics, mining guys, everything, right? It's still hands-on. What we are doing is attending 8 categories, right? So unless I'm not grounds up, unless I don't have a right team behind, unless I don't do a deep dive on the business, it's impossible. And I think that's something unique about us, as in we are definitely not a boardroom founders. I don't remember Souvik and I have ever worn a jacket, be it any press conference, be it any boardroom meetings, investors, ICs. We have not. As in, this is how we are. As in, we are more close to our business. That's where we associate ourselves more than to the other side of the world. And I think that has helped us, right? That the fact that I have been able to move from one product to another, right, is also because I do not have experience in any one product category. I'm agnostic. Right, my approach is management principles, right? So be it a plumbing or a plywood or an MDF or a modular kitchen or a tiles, right? Because I'm new to it and I'm eager to learn about it, right? And I take my learning from grounds, right? It makes it easier for me for penetration. Am I always right on my strategies? No, right? Many a times we have the strategies going wrong, but we have always evolved by it, right? And one thing what we have stuck around is for every product category or for every vertical that we have built in, we have always got an industry stalwart, right? So I think that becomes a lethal combination. On one side, I get in decades of experience to build it out, somebody who has been there, done it all his life. And on the other side, I bring in the agility of the startup, I bring the aggression of a startup or of a founder, right? And I mix it up.
Wonderful. I think I heard two things I could totally hard relate to. One is, of course, founder market fit. You guys belong here and nobody knows this business better than you. And of course, founder hunger that goes with it, but also that winners have both range and depth. And I saw a glimpse of both as I'm speaking with you, which is also my next question, Aditya. You've gone from B2B to B2R, business to retail, and B2C. And this business, you make it seem, you make it sound very simple, but clearly there's a lot of backward integration that's gone into building the business. And you've been innovating a fair bunch. Talk us through some of these little secrets on, I mean, there's a reason why companies stay single category or single product, because that itself is hard enough. And envisaging something this large and then, of course, executing it is not easy. So, what are some of the frameworks that you applied to make this happen?
I think I'll give you a few of the master points that we always focus upon. One, as I said, you have to get an industry stalwart, right? See, when you bring in a stalwart, it becomes easier. He would fix up your supply chain. He would get you the right talent, right? He would get you the right practices. He would know at least that if he's a stalwart, he would know 70% of the market, right? How the market behaves, right? The cyclicity of the market. What are the vendors? What's the pain point of the vendors, right? See, we know what we don't know, right? Souvik and I are very clear that we don't know something that we don't. So it's better that I get an expert and let him do it, right? And my job is to empower him. My job is to enable him. My job is to build out this entire horizontal category, right? Which they can't think from a single product portfolio. That's my job, right? I can be novel. I am the risk taker. I can think out of the box. I can dare to do it, right? And build it out. So I keep focusing on getting the right talent, right? I think that's one. Two, you have to, I think as you're building out, you have to trust your people, right? And you have to believe that men make mistakes, right? Broadly, you have to ensure that even your larger calls, in proportion, your majority of the calls have to be right. Some are anyways going to go wrong. Even I make mistakes, right? Till the time you can evolve with it, till the time you can take the right lessons, you should not repeat the mistakes. Making mistakes is not wrong. Repeating mistakes is wrong, right? So I think we focus on some very, very basic principles, right? And we keep moving ahead, right? There will be hits, there will be misses. Thankfully, we have equity investors who also have a certain level of risk appetite, right? They have always given us a free hand to build it out, right? And that's the reason we have gone audacious in taking many calls, and largely the majority of them gone right. If 7 on 10 times you're right, even if you go wrong 3 on 10 times, it's a very small number, because the potential or the magnitude that the result brings in on 7 on 10 is humongous, right? So keep focusing, keep evolving, right? And and eventually things get built out, right? As in, बोलते हैं ना, हम चलते गए और कारवा बनते गया, right? So that's how it is.
Beautiful. Very well put, Aditya. This is truly humbling, and I can totally see, the number of things you have to straddle. I have just two more questions. One is, of course, how has life changed after becoming a unicorn? And, what is it that the company witnessed in terms of, whether it's any cultural changes or just the speed of building. And of course, you made Scott a big promise when you raised. So tell us about life post unicorn.
What definitely, it's a great moment to celebrate. It's honor to be one of the top unicorns of India, right? But as it said, with great powers come great responsibility. So I think once you're a unicorn there, right, you have to understand that all of your move will get judged, right? Everything that you do is going to go through a scrutiny, is going to be under a microscope. Thankfully, again, as I told you, we are business first founders. You'll not find us on social media. You'll not find us having a lot of views on any of the topics, right? We are so engrossed doing our business, right, that we have a little time for controversy. While it was not a strategy then, but now we look back and see the low profile has helped us. So while the good days get celebrated, the bad ones will always get celebrated as well. to me, the answer to sum it up is that it gets me a lot of focus. I have to be extremely careful of what I'm talking, extremely careful of how I'm representing the company in many of forums, be extremely careful of what our policies be. And I do know when every night when I sleep that if I do a mistake, it's going to affect now it's going to affect millions of people, right? We have like 5,000 families with us, right? 5,000 employees, 5,000 families, and then we have a vendor base, then we have a client base. So now the ecosystem is large, so anything and everything that we do, the effect is going to be a multifold, and that comes with a lot of pressure.
Well, I think you're doing a great job with it, and clearly the low profile is helping. And I'm not sure what will happen after this podcast. You're going to be a lot more, in the limelight for sure. But I think a lot of lessons for the community out there, for startup founders, first-time founders, and of course the investing community. Last question, Aditya. The construction industry is so closely linked to climate change, and which is a big conversation. As a founder, what can we expect from InfraMarket now, and what are the innovations on the list, and what's the view on the larger climate conversation as a company that works in the sector?
See, I think as a new age company, right, it remains our responsibility to keep taking initiatives that contribute on the well-being of the environment, of the climate, right? So keeping that thing in mind, we keep putting a lot of efforts on the R&D side. So something like be it concrete, right? So we have a lot of R&D done around concrete, where we have come up with green concrete. We use a lot of products, right, which are a waste products, something like a fly ash, right? That's a residual waste left after burning out coal, right? So if can you build out technologies around that? So while there is one technology that is visible to a consumer, like a pure software SaaS hardware technology, there's a lot of technology and R&D focus we also do on the product side. Can we use products which are more new age? Can we use products and technology which help environment, right? So we have a focus on a lot of development of the green products, that is right from an AAC block, green bricks, the concrete, right? We are very closely looking at geotextiles and geosynthetics as a replacement for not only concrete but also your tar roads, right? So I think that's a continuous process, right? That will keep evolving. But as a company, we are sensitive towards our contribution. We want to make a lot of contribution towards the betterment of environment, right? And time and again, we keep investing and keep finding out solutions which will take us closer to that.
Thank you, Aditya. This has been an immensely rich conversation. I learned so much, and I am feeling so inspired, and I'm sure so will a lot of people who listen to you. Thank you for sharing everything so openly and kindly. Grateful, and look forward to seeing the company grow and reach bigger heights. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Look
Thank you for
forward
your
to
best
seeing the
wishes.
company grow and reach bigger heights. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Aaditya Sharda, co-founder of InfraMarket, for being on Startup Dugout by Dell Technologies. If you are an entrepreneur that's forging your path with your dreams, Dell for Startups can help you in your digital journey and transformation. For more details, check out the links in the episode description.